My guest today is Dr. Richard Gold. He is an extraordinary Asian arts practitioner and also an incredible musician who works with Yuval Ron on the 40 hertz frequencies. Hi, Dr. Richard. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Loren. It's an absolute pleasure.
So, to say you got started on this has been your lifelong journey. You have been a student of the Asian healing arts for decades. And when we're talking about the six healing sounds of Qigong, how did this come into your awareness?
Well, thank you. Like you said, I've been, since I was an undergraduate in college, I started to study Chinese philosophy around 1970. And it took my heart and mind and spirit in a new direction because I was actually a religion major studying Old and New Testament, and I had this elective course in literature, Chinese literature, and it just changed my life. Um, I was a pre-med student at the time, actually, chemistry major. And this was during the period of the Vietnam War, and there was so much turmoil going on in society that my life path changed dramatically. So that's sort of the prelogue of what I'm going to say. Subsequently, I was in the first wave of people that studied traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture in the United States. I went to the first state-approved school of Chinese medicine, which was in Boston, Massachusetts, called the New England School of Acupuncture, which thankfully is still in existence. And was every day I sat in that class, I was so grateful to be there. The headmaster, and the school was approved because of the authority of the headmaster, Dr. Tinyao So, Dr. So. And it really drew together because there was an interim there. I went from 1970 to 1977 now. There was an interim there where I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was living out in the woods of Kentucky as a hermit. I was devoting my life to yoga and meditation and organic agriculture and actually tree forest maintenance on the land I was living on. And one day I wake up from a dream and all I want to do is study acupuncture. I had no reason to understand why that came. Probably your audience would understand it more than most audiences.
What was that dream? Do you
I don't
recall?
remember the specific of the dreams, but I remember when I walked out into the woods upon awakening, because I didn't have indoor facilities. The dream was it surrounded, infused me. Um, and and I knew the word acupuncture. I'd studied some Tai Chi already, and I was familiar with the word. And Richard Nixon had recently gone to China, and they'd been written up because a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist named James Reston of the New York Times had an emergency appendectomy and had post-surgical acupuncture for pain. And so I knew the word. It wasn't like totally foreign to me. And but the idea of studying acupuncture, especially at that time, Lauren, there was no career in Chinese medicine. There was no profession in this country. But fortunately, by another fortuitous event, I found out about this school because there was no internet, obviously, then. And I was living out in the woods, and I just happened to go back to Cincinnati, Ohio, where I grew up to help my parents move. And I stopped at the only vegetarian restaurant in the city at that time and was reading the macrobiotic newspaper waiting for my undercooked soy burger to arrive. And I see an ad that says announcing America's first state-approved school of Chinese medicine. And in that moment again, I knew my life was about to change. I'd been living on the land for 5 years and had actually learned how to be comfortable there and survive. So I moved to Boston and I studied Chinese medicine and acupuncture. Graduated in 1978, and then my whole career since then has been weaving in and out of that. Never too far. I became a teacher, and I helped found the Pacific College of Health and Sciences, based in San Diego, and campuses in New York and Chicago. So it's really been my life. So to your actual question, now, which is embedded in Chinese medicine, is the six healing sounds. Now, not necessarily the Qigong part of it, but the earliest text of Chinese medicine, which dates from about 236 BC, called the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine in Neijing. Each of the elements, and I can go into this a little more, is needed. Each of the elements was assigned a sound and a tone and a key. Furthermore, the Chinese character for medicine is two parts. One part is related to herbs and nutrition, and the second part is related to music, sound, joy, and delight. And these were the components of what was perceived, because the characters tell the story in the Chinese language. This is what the word for medicine encompasses. It doesn't say anything about acupuncture. There's a dominance of acupuncture in the idea about what Chinese medicine is in the West, but it's really just not really just, it's a powerful technique of Chinese medical. But Chinese medicine is a complete system of medicine. And I'd like to add at this point, it's rational, it's logical, it's based on a different rationale and a different logic than the Western perspective. So here it was, each of the elements already had a tone and a key and a sound related to it. And then it became more formalized in about 420 AD, when this idea of the six healing sounds emerged as a practice, as a contemplative and a healing practice. And at first it was just sounds, and they're simple sounds that we can go through them today, and anybody can learn them. It's not, you could do it when you're walking your dog or in the forest, or But then about 500 years later, 500 to 800 years later, actually, some simple Qigong movements were added. And what we know now is when the more of your systems that are involved in a practice, the more profound its efficacy can be. And so now we have the six healing sounds, Qigong.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So I just want to say the synchronicities that came in your life and the way this unfolded. Have you contemplated in all your yoga work, lessons, teaching? Have you contemplated a past life working in Chinese medicine?
Interestingly enough, yes. There were times earlier in my career when I would watch my hands doing my needling, and they felt like they weren't necessarily this current edition of me hands. And another thing which is astounding, because it's come back, and I'll explain why it's come back, is early in my career, I was treating a man, an insurance executive who came in a suit. I mean, he didn't feel spiritual or new age, because we shouldn't make those judgments about people at all. And I set the needles, and I like to leave patients in their own space with a gentle, harmonious environment, and playing music, which segues into our discussion about Yuval a little later. And I came back into the room, and this gentleman said to me, after you left the room, an old Chinese man with a long beard and a robe entered the room in spirit form, but he saw them, or he intuited it. He looked at your needle placements and the combination of points you did. He nodded approvingly, and then he departed. So
That is so cool.
But speaking of synchronicity, so now our 30-year-old daughter is now a doctor of Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and she started a practice about a year ago. And she's treating a woman who's a prominent art teacher in San Diego. And in the China, someone later gave an automatic writing session with me, and she named this spirit as Mao Shindo. And Mao Shindo is coming through this artist and talking to and sharing with my daughter.
Wow.
So,
Wow. All right, more will be revealed. More will be
yeah.
revealed. Oh, okay. That is maybe a guide of yours or an aspect of yourself. Okay.
I'm
Not
open to any kind of understanding.
all right. Well, that is
It
amazing
doesn't come
how.
through me directly. It may be an action, and it's so natural for me to be a. I'm not Chinese. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. From a Jewish background. So, but interestingly enough, my older brother speaks fluent Mandarin, and in the late '60s started studying Chinese language. My younger brother marries an acupuncturist. Is married to an acupuncturist.
I was going to
So
ask you, do you speak Chinese? 你会
I
说中
don't.
文话？
I don't speak the language.
Okay.
My fluency got more into the medicine.
Good.
Um,
Okay. All
uh,
right.
but it certainly would be advantageous to speak. But I've been fortunate because when I've done study tours overseas, uh, synchronistically or blessedly, I had people local who were there to help me, including being in China in 1980, where there was an MD, a Western trained MD, who had studied before the Maoist revolution, who spoke fluent English, and he served as my guide interpreter in the hospital I was working at.
Okay. Excellent. So tell us about some of the healings that you did along the way in Chinese medicine and how that got you involved in music with Yuval.
Uh, well, the specifics of, I mean, I've had a very successful practice, meaning I've been able to treat a lot of people who return and refer their friends and family. I have some patients I've been treating for 30 years, and they knew me single, they knew me married, they remember when I had my children. And now that my daughter's in my group practice, they say, I knew you when you were crawling around the office when you were a baby. Um, so
Mhm.
uh, so I can't, there's not so, I mean, things happen, you don't know sometimes. Like, for instance, I treated a guy a number of years ago who was smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day, and he wanted to do smoking cessation. And
Mhm.
I never advertised anything, especially smoking cessation, weight loss, or hair growth. Um, and I gave him one treatment. I didn't do really any kind of guided meditation or and tried to plant any subliminal thoughts in his head. I just welcomed him, and I did what I was taught to do. And then I never saw him again. And I figured, well, it failed. Maybe 6 weeks later, someone comes to see me. They were referred by him because he quit smoking from that one treatment. Now, I don't know if it lasted, how long it lasted, but the fact that he maybe had a day without smoking, I thought was marvelous. In the practice of Chinese medicine in America, we often see people who the Western system has failed.
Mhm.
People on multiple medications, or sent home for whatever reasons we can't help you, or so there's just that I've been able to sustain the healing practice, which is very fulfilling. I mean, I love going to work. I don't even want to call it work. Going to my healing place, and so with that in mind, so back to how Yuval and I, the synchronicity of Yuval and um, I where did the story begin? It's sort of a circuitous route. I developed some subspecialties within the East Asian medicine, where I did a study tour in Japan, and without planning it, I was able to meet a Japanese shiatsu sensei who accepted me as a student and taught me his unique style of work, which is which I has a book. I have a book of that work. It was published by a publisher in England. And then that was in 86. And then in 88, I made my first trip to Thailand. And I was going to Thailand to be immersed in Buddhist culture and food and yoga. I'd never heard of Thai massage. And at that time, I had been the senior faculty and the president of a very highly regarded massage school here in San Diego. And I had Massage Magazine subscription, and I always would look through it and look at the ads. And I'd never heard of Thai massage. This is 1988. And I got to Thailand, and I met a former student from the Chinese medicine program who was living there. And we met in Bangkok, and then he said, we really need to go to northern Thailand. I thought I was going to southern Thailand. He said, we need to go to the north, because the north is the deepest Buddhist cultural environment in the country. And in the winter, it has fabulous weather too, great food. And we were in a tuk-tuk, the little motorcycle taxi, and I see in the back of the driver's seat, it said Ancient Thai Massage. And so we looked at each other, and we had the driver go there before we looked for a guest house. And in my luckily it was a really lovely place, very high quality environment, and the practitioners, and not to say other places aren't very nice, but this was very wonderful that it was so nice. And one of the first things they say is, do you want 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, 2 hour, 3 hour session? At that time it was $4 an hour. So I'm getting a Thai massage. My buddy and I are in the same room, and they're practitioners. And again, I never had Thai massage. At a certain point in that treatment, I had the most profound meditative experience I've ever had. And I had studied, done a month-long Thai, at least a month-long Theravada Buddhist retreat in 1970. Around the same time, all these things changed for me. It was so profound. And subsequently, I learned that what we call Thai massage is actually part of traditional Thai medicine, practiced by monks. Historically, it was practiced in the monasteries. And it's considered a spiritual practice because it embraces the four divine states of mind of Buddhist philosophy. Furthermore, if you've never had Thai massage, anyone listening, it's having advanced yoga done to you very, very slowly when it's done northern style. And at one point, I opened my eyes, I looked at my friend, and I don't know if I said it out loud, I said, where is my body? Because I had been wrapped into an advanced posture I didn't think I could get into. It was just, and because you move slowly, and as a practitioner, you're very sensitive to it. Because you're supposed to be in a meditative state when you practice it too. So a seed was planted in my being about this Thai massage. And I had a lot of sessions. I had no idea. And I tried to communicate. I didn't have a translator there. I tried to communicate about where were you learning this, because in different places, the massage always had the same flavor theme, but it was done just slightly differently. Sometimes they'd start at the head, sometimes at the feet, sometimes lying prone, sometimes supine, a lot of variation. After a month in Thailand at that time, and then a couple of weeks in Bali, I went off to New Zealand to visit with a naturopathic friend of mine who I'd met. And he had turned his house in Auckland into a healing center. And one of his practitioners was a physical therapist practicing Thai massage. So I said, how did you, what? And so she showed me the name of the school, and actually I'd gone by it because it's down an alley. It was quite near where I had my first session even. So I wrote a letter, physical letter, put a stamp on it. And I found out that they had courses for foreigners, like she had told me. And so less than a year later, I'm back in Thailand, enrolled in a Thai massage course. Amazing experience. I rode a bicycle to the school. I went to the night market every night and had delicious food. I was the only American in my cohort, and amazing experience. And so at a certain point, I talked about that teacher spoke English. I said to him, I want you to know actually that I'm a president and a faculty member of a massage school in California, and no one knows about Thai massage in the States at this point, at least not publicly. Turns out there were a few sales of people happening. I said, would you give me permission to video you doing this work so I can have some material? And at that time, the workbook we used were just line drawings with no explanation. It was transmitted orally like Buddhist culture. So it was all voluminous notes, and hopefully you got it right. And he welcomed the idea. And then before I left Chiang Mai, I said to him, would you consider coming to America as a guest of our school and help spread this magnificent art, which happened a few years later. This is all going to come back to Yuval in a sense. So I started, I brought my senior students together to start practicing, and we started to develop the language of teaching massage that's familiar, anatomically based massage and indications, so that Western students could grasp it. Because not everybody's, and I wasn't qualified yet to teach really. So we worked our way and we developed a whole protocol based on what I was taught in anatomical massage teaching language. That subsequently became a book that was published by a company called Churchill Livingston, and then the second edition was by Mosby Press, Elsevier and then Mosby, which has a nice position in publishing and massage. So back to we're doing a circuitous route. So I sent that book to a place called Esalen Institute in Big Sur, because Esalen, I imagine a lot of your audience is familiar. It's an amazing retreat center on the cliffs of Big Sur with hot springs.
Nude hot springs, I might say.
Yeah, it's some legendary people have lived and taught there.
Amazing place, and it's still standing.
Thank God, because the cliffs have fallen all over it.
The cliffs
the original
and fires.
Original bathhouses were destroyed.
Yeah.
So it really fit into their model of meditation and body work and body awareness, spirituality. So they accepted me as a teacher, which subsequently I taught there for 15 years in a row. Wow. And then when the momentum changed, when the road was closed both north and south, and Esalen went into hibernation for a little while, and then they changed their model. They don't teach anything that's not really Esalen massage in the massage realm now. So those 15 years, 1 year, Yuval Ron was there, teaching a course with the neuroscientist Mark Waldman on sound and neuroscience. Wow. And I was teaching my course on traditional Thai massage. Now, interestingly, because everybody eats in the same dining room in Esalen, in the baths, Yuval and I never ate together. We never were in the bath together. We had no contact till the last day by the lodge. He's Israeli, my wife's Israeli. My wife heard him talk to his children in Hebrew, and she spoke to him in Hebrew, and a connection was made. And we learned about his work, and he had people were still buying CDs. He had a few CDs in the, which I still listen to a lot. I mean, it's beautiful. Those are his ensemble work. And we said goodbye, never to see each other again, but appreciating the contact. Now, of those 15 years I went to Esalen, every year after class ends on Friday at lunch, we would go north with the kids. We'd go to Big Sur State Park and the Monterey Aquarium. We didn't want to drive through LA traffic on a Friday evening. That particular year, we drove south to Morro Bay because on those drives, I'd always seen this huge, it's actually called a volcanic plug in the harbor at Morro Bay. It's about 1,000 feet high. It's circular. Geologists don't know where it came from, but they know it came from a volcano somewhere. It just seemed like like, like the 2001 Space Odyssey, just like a monolith that had power, and I was drawn to it.
Uh-huh.
So we had a hotel reservation and we had a dinner reservation. So we got there. The kids were hungry, so we went to dinner an hour early. We sit down at the table, and my daughter looks up, she said, "Daddy, you won't believe who's walking in." Yuval, his wife, and his children walked in. Let's talk about synchronicity.
Yeah.
So I got up, invited him to join us for dinner. And Loren, from that moment on, we've been creative brothers and more family than family. We have no karmic history in this lifetime. And so I'm going to take a little slightly. So that's where I meet Yuval. We connect. Prior to that, I'd been using binaural sounds to, I'm going to use the word accelerate or deepen my meditation practice. So I'd learned about meditation in 1970. In this story now, we're in about 2000, 30 years later. And I had struggled to meditate. There's so many things in life that are easier to do than to learn to meditate or to be a real meditator. And so I learned about binaural sounds and sound healing maybe 6 or 7 years before then. And I was using that every morning. But the CDs I was using, to say they were sound is correct. To say they had any musicality or pleasantness, they weren't. It was like listening to crickets. Crickets can be more like someone hitting a nail. It was more or less raw sound, and it became abrasive rather than conducive.
Mm-hmm.
So on the walk, I asked Yuval, because I'd learned more about his background in Hollywood and his ensemble. And it turns out he did some of the early binaural beat work with Robert Monroe, which is, talking to the guru of that. I said, is there a way to bring a higher level of composition, musicality, production to this area of sound healing and meditation music? And he really liked the idea, the possibility. And I knew about the 6 healing sounds. And so thus was born our first project. Because the word metta means loving kindness in Sanskrit and Buddhist tradition. So we named our company Metta Mindfulness Music. We had no business plan. We divided the responsibilities. And I want to make one, I'm not a musician. I'm a lover of music, but the whole creative musical composition, recording, the connection to musicians, that all Yuval signed. Yuval calls me, I think he calls me the creative director because I'm the idea guy. And he calls me his Medici. I support the enterprise. And so we did this one, and that's something we're going to make available to your followers, which is, we call it Ancient Wisdom, Modern Sounds for Health and Healing. And each of the 5 elements has its own composition, its own track. And then unique to Chinese medicine, of all traditional medicine, there's a concept called the Sanjiao, or triple warmer, which is an integrating, it's been debated for thousands of years now, what is the triple warmer? There's a lot of valid ideas around it, but I think the easiest way is it's the thing that weaves everything together. I mean, one of the big, I'd say, weaknesses of Western medicine is it's reductionist. It's everything seen in parts, and the dynamic interplay is really not taken into consideration, except for with side effects often. If you do this, you listen to these commercials on TV, you do this, you're going to get liver problems, you're going to see floaters in your eye, ringing. They see that there's ramifications, because if you target one thing, a plethora of other things are going to happen. So the triple warmer is what weaves everything together. So that's why we have 5 elements with 6 healing sounds, because triple warmer has its own sound and it has its own energy lines in the body. And another way of viewing the triple warmer, and we with the exercise you see you embrace that, is it's upper warmer, middle warmer, and lower warmer, and the organs associated with that. So we did that production thinking it was a one-off. Again, no business plan, no budget, no. I had zero experience in the music business, and I entered the music business when the music business was imploding because of streaming. So it's a terrible business model, really. But we were on a mission. Our mission is to use ancient wisdom traditions and modern neuroscience, combine those into beautiful sounds, beautiful music, and we wanted to engage acoustic musicians. All of our themes are played by world-renowned musicians, and so that's how we started. Subsequently, we've explored the chakras of yoga musically and with guided meditations, the doshas of Ayurvedic medicine, the mysticism of Kabbalah, the four divine states of Buddhism. And those are the main ancient ones. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, synchronistically, I'm at a lunch. I was on the board of directors for 7 years of what's now an accredited graduate school in California called the California Institute of Human Sciences. And that school's mission is the scientific verification or validation of higher spiritual states. It's the brainchild of a now deceased Japanese mystic yoga scientist named Hiroshi Motoyama. And I had met Motoyama in Japan in 1986. And so when he opened the school in San Diego, he sought me out to help teach. And then some number of years later, when they became an approved school for like 20 plus years, but they'd never gone for accreditation. And then they found out that their most populated department was psychology, and to teach psychology for people to be able to go for licensure, they needed to become national, state, and regionally accredited. So they brought me in because I had experience with the acupuncture schools and accreditation. So I served on their board for 7 years. We did some research there too. So, and Yuval and I have both done some teaching there. So I forgot why I went off on this tangent. Oh yeah, now I know. So I was on the board. The president of the school asked me to join him for lunch one day. And I did. And at the lunch, there's the man who's now the president of the school named Jeffrey Martin, who's an amazing person you might want to interview one day. And a man named Sanjay Manchada, who's a Indian native, who's a sound healer. He's a therapist, amazing guy. And we're sitting next to each other. There was only about 5 or 6 of us at the lunch. So it was an intimate lunch. And we were talking about sound healing, and I talked about how we're using brain entrainment and isochronic beats, and we were working to get people from beta into alpha, theta, and delta. And we were getting wonderful feedback about that. And Sanjay turns to me, he said, "Are you familiar with 40 hertz gamma?" No idea. In fact, again, gamma wasn't really talked about, especially in the meditative community. I think probably in the mystical psychic community it is, because now that we know, a lot of times when people are channeling, they're in gamma.
Yeah.
That's where the sort of global network of consciousness seems to reside, is more in gamma, which is the fastest. Where down in delta you're at 3 to 7 hertz, and gamma you're at 30 to 120 hertz. That's beats per second. And within that wide range in gamma, 40 is this incredible sweet spot where something happens in consciousness which is remarkable. Now, Sanjay mentioned this to me, and he pointed me to research coming out of MIT, where in animal studies, where the animals bred to have dementia and Alzheimer's, they exposed them to 40 hertz sound and light. And again, hear the sound, which is raw sounds. It's like a deep bass, a rumble. And after a period of time, and we know now that in like 40 minutes a day for 40 days is when real brain neurogenesis is happening in the brain. But with the animal studies, they had noticed cognitive improvement in mazes. And then when the next stage of the research was to do brain examination. So they euthanized the animals and they examined the brains. And animals bred to have Alzheimer's, which would be amyloid protein, amyloid plaque and tau proteins, which seem to be that's the stagnation that occurs in the brain, which seems to be not necessarily the cause, but certainly a contributing factor in those diseases. That the amyloids and the taus were gone. Gone. And again, this isn't just New Age hearsay. This is, look it up. In fact, you go to our website, we have some articles cited. This is MIT and then other major schools like Johns Hopkins and University of Wisconsin. The research is emerging.
Amazing. Truly amazing. Life-changing.
Life-changing. So an unexpected lunch, a seed was planted, and I immediately talked to Yuval about it, and we started to do our own research. Now, there's no 40 hertz, it's like a low E on the piano. It's not even a key on the piano.
You can barely hear it, right?
You can barely hear it.
And it's just yeah, okay.
So what we then decided to do was to bring 40 hertz tuning, composition, and binaurals underneath beautiful music. Because if you're going to ask someone to spend 40 minutes a day or for even daily for years, it has to be pleasant. Why torture yourself? Why torture? So
yeah. You beautified it.
We beautified it. And then not only did we beautify it, we expanded our footprint, because what we realized is not everybody likes sitar, for instance, So we have solo piano. We have what we call sort of global jazz, which is we have some in acoustic guitar and some in piano. We have the world's first choral piece in 40 hertz. And I don't know if you've all told you that story about it when we were residents at BYU and worked with the BYU singers. They are magnificent.
Truly divine.
Now
so you're bringing it all, yeah.
So we have world music, we have jazz, we have contemporary, we have a new age, and when we're finishing a very important project we've been on for years, we're considering a country-inspired sound with 40 hertz, because Alzheimer and dementia and cognitive difficulties it's global.
It's across all types.
Across all creeds and all economic levels. And I can't imagine it's going to become less because of the environmental toxins and the EMFs and all the other things that we're exposed to.
I just think it's really incredible. I commend both of you for such fabulous work. Again, it's healing medicine. So you took the science and you beautified it and you made it into something that people actually like to listen to. And the benefits of that is beyond the imagination. Has there been back-end studies on this, or any client cases that you can refer to, or is that just not there yet?
Well, there's a wonderful doctor at George Washington University in DC who we presented with his group, and he has anecdotal. I have approached UCSD Medical School neuroscientists there and geriatric specialists, and if I came to them, with $500,000 to do a pilot study, they would go for it.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
So that's that. Now there's definitely more stuff coming out of MIT, and what's really happening now is these bio exam, wearables that are people coming up with. There's a new guy with his headphones based in Boston called Neurable, which is monitoring the brain waves and then feeding into the brain's vibrations to help. It's a lot of his design is to help people that are working, like especially engineers and high tech, when their brain is starting to not function at optimal, the machine feels it, the sensors feel it, and it encourages the rest, and it definitely starts to try to counterbalance the stress of
Uh,
that. So
do people recognize when they're out of balance? But no, so now they need a machine to tell them.
or
Unless they're just like, oh, maybe they would correlate the two if they said, oh yeah, you know what? I don't feel good. I do need to rest. Interesting. Go ahead.
but what we tend to do is then have caffeine or sugar,
Yes, that's what we do. We go for the snacks or the caffeine. I'll have
which
another
is
cup of coffee. Ah, okay.
detrimental. But really a time 20, about a 23-minute nap or just a rest period is tremendously rejuvenating. It doesn't affect your night's sleep for most people, and it really gives you a recharge. So you're
Wow.
back to optimal. So,
We do need help to understand our brain then. I mean, of
oh,
course, we can sit and become brain and heart coherent, but wow. What are your thoughts on that then? Coherence.
yes, absolutely. That's incredible. And I think, and we've seen in sound healing that heart rate variability normalizes and heart mind connection is much better. So,
Like your Thai massage.
oh
That
yeah,
brought you into heart mind coherence. That took
yes,
you into the quantum field. That opened up your consciousness.
absolutely.
And
And
that
it
music
opened
is
up
good.
my sort of my enthusiasm. Not that I wasn't enthusiastic, but it created a whole new realm that led me into a path of unexpected glory, not glory, gratitude.
Gratitude, and that drew you to a new future.
Yeah,
That you were engaging in the quantum field and um, creating a life instead of not liking a life, or instead of ruminating on your life, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
were, that's fascinating. Okay.
I can,
All
if
right.
we have a few more minutes, I can share another
Yes,
anecdote.
I love your stories. Please share. Please share. Yeah.
So, right around when I turned 60, I had a lot of things still going on. I was the president of an acupuncture, no, the president of a massage school. I was on the board of a Chinese medicine school. I had a private practice. I had a lot going on. Not too much, but plenty. And then I'd been at that level for a number of years. But I always had a Tai Chi practice, and so I wasn't burnt out. But I also I didn't get married till I was 40, and I had kids in my mid and late 40s. And I realized that I wasn't feeling like I was going to die. I wasn't anything like that. But I realized if something happened to me, I had all these balls in the air that I didn't think were the right thing to throw at my wife or my kids. So I started to divest. A former student took over the acupuncture business clinic, which is a big operation, a wonderful place to work. It's a big operation, but a wonderful healing environment. Um, the acupuncture Chinese medicine school was acquired, and so I was off the board there, and then weaned off the faculty. And the massage school, I got out of my ownership interest, and I continued to teach a little bit, but I wasn't on the board or leadership or anything like that. But I was still teaching, I was still treating. But I mean, I grew up in the 50s when fathers didn't necessarily have dinner with their kids every night or didn't pick us up at school so I really, I love being a parent. I mean, it's been wonderful. Because it could have passed me by. I didn't get married till I'm 40 and, yada, yada, yada. So around that time, my wife goes to see a mystical rabbi who does readings based on the strokes of your name in Hebrew.
Very cool.
I wasn't there, you know. So he gave her the reading, and then towards the end, he said, "There's something about your husband I want to tell you about." And he says to her, "Your husband still has many more projects to do." And I was at a place of, and soon after that, I meet Yuval.
Ah, yeah.
So I was, the field
It's
was,
an encore. It's an encore career for
the
you.
field was prepared, and it's really like I said, it's not a good it's not a good business at all, and but it's a source of such joy and pleasure and the impact. Again, I've taught for
The
many
impact.
years.
See, this is a new earth business. You're doing this for service to humanity.
Absolutely.
And that's the difference. And that will pay off for you. That you don't do it to go into it to make the money. No,
No.
that's not why you do it. The money's a byproduct.
No. And we have some commerce. But the streaming
Yeah.
services you get 0.007 per stream, and unless you're a huge artist, having a million or billions of streams, it's not viable.
Mhm.
Um, but no, we're in it. We're continuing to produce. I've committed to Yuval. We're just getting, as long as we love working together. We meet every week online because he's in LA and I'm in San Diego. We do get together some, but we meet every week, and we're cooking up projects all the time. And he's actively teaching. He's younger. He still loves to travel. He's got an aggressive travel schedule coming up of teaching and performing, and so we're in it. And again, what you just said is so perfect. The rewards are so far beyond a monetary, and it's just such a pleasure. I never
And that
imagined I could have that kind of reach. We have, you know, people all over the world. So one of the advantages of the streaming is people in Kazakhstan and Peru and Saudi Arabia are listening to
it's
our music.
reaching the far-flung corners of the earth.
Yeah.
It's reaching the far, and it's an integrative with all of the skills of both of you. It's integrative on the ancient wisdom, the neurology, the neuroscience behind it. It's such a it's so beautiful for the planet. So let me ask you this: when
Sure.
you look at getting this out there, have you thought about how you get this? How do we teach all musicians this? How do we encode all music like this? Because this is getting very Pleiadian-like for me, where everything is energy. And the Pleiadians understand that. And in their structures, their walls are energetic barriers of frequency to heal the human vessel or the physical vessel. So, what are your thoughts about making this more mainstream? I know you've contemplated that.
Well, we actively try to spread what we're doing as much as we can through teaching and just to be. And this is an example. Just this week, we have an agreement with an app which was funded by I think the NIH to help people recovering from cancer with guided acupressure treatments.
Wow.
And I met one of the developers at a conference and introduced them to our music. So our music is going to be embedded in this. So when they do points that are for the liver, which is wood, they're going to listen to our wood track. And if it's for the heart, they're going to listen to our fire track. And so so that's sort of a very grounded, unfortunately, it's for cancer treatment, but that's a huge population. And so that's an app that people are going to have, and it's guided. They call them rituals. They're guided rituals of self acupressure to help with the main symptoms of cancer treatment. You're often sleep and nausea, stress, and issues like that. So I don't really have a plan per se, like what you're saying. We're
It'll get
doing
out
what
there. Keep doing what you're doing
I'm going to
because
talk to you. I'm going to talk to you and your wonderful community.
it's
And
it's gonna get out there. All the sound healers out there, the more, there's more and more people getting into sound healing. People are learning, taking courses on it. You guys are teaching on it. Yuval is teaching on it. It's just a matter of time. And soon, I mean, and people can't really feel it, but they know what makes them feel good.
Yeah.
And they may not know the energetics behind it, but then that's a real physical, tangible result. It's so amazing.
Yeah. I mean, for
Absolutely.
instance, I mean, we've approached a few, like the Farber Hospital at Harvard, which is a cancer hospital. They have an acupuncture program there. The head of that program, the Chinese medicine, we made a playlist for him to play in the waiting room there, or in the infusion rooms. I mean, it's when you sit in a doctor's office, especially let's say for cancer treatment, and CNN or Fox are on the in the waiting room,
That's
it's like
toxic.
it's
That's
toxic.
it's counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're wow, have you thought of promoting those CD, well, not only promoting, but offering them for sale in those chiropractor or those medicine offices, those doctor
Well,
offices
we do have CDs still, but what
still?
the some, but some of our more recent productions we haven't because there's I have a garage full of CDs that we printed. Um, but we really want to have healing sounds in as many environments as possible. I'm at a place now that a
Grocery
lot of
stores, elevators,
Target stores.
Target stores,
Yeah. Now, a thing to keep in
City
mind, and
Hall.
this is
Go ahead.
important, and it's not well known. I think it's certainly not a popular position, which is the music we're streaming. The vast majority, probably 90 some percent of it, are MP3 files. And an MP3 files, it's a brilliant technological advance. You can have 10,000 songs on an iPhone, but the MP3 technology strips data from
Lossy.
the file. So that's why you can download a song in, matter of seconds, or an hour-long thing in a minute or so. There's
And
something
what
called
does that do?
wave files, which is what you could get from our download from our website.
So your website sells the Wave, which are larger,
Much
take a
larger files.
little bit longer, but they contain the energy. They contain everything.
Absolutely, because our
Uh-huh.
music's layered. What you're hearing is beautiful, and the medicine's underneath it. So the MP3 technology strips out what they feel is not essential for the musicality,
Yeah.
but it's going to degrade the potential, like we do with food in the Western world.
Hmm.
It looks good, it tastes good, but it's vacuous of nutrition a lot of the times. Not only is it vacuous of nutrition, it's often very toxic. So
So
this
that's
is true in
why,
sound. So this is subtle energy. And so if you're stripping the healing part of the subtle energy, you're really downgrading. Now again, our music's beautiful to listen to on Spotify and Apple Music, but if we're going to do any research, and I'm in talks with a few people still that show interest, we insist that it has to be the wave quality file. Otherwise, it's not. I don't think it's valid.
even though the human ear, most of us, cannot detect a wave file from an MP3, it's still a lossy format. And if you're going to be scientifically measuring things,
Yes.
you're going to want that wave because, yeah, all right, the MP3 is a lossy format. That's very interesting. Thank you for your input on that. And that's why you're offering CDs, physical CDs, and
Or CD quality, which is what a
or
wave file
CD
is.
quality, otherwise known as a wave, and it's digital, but it's going to be a little bit larger of a file,
Moment much larger.
much larger, probably 5 times
And that's
larger.
why, I imagine that some people in the big servers wouldn't mind doing it, but all of a sudden your farms that are holding all your data have to become exponentially bigger because it's so much more data. Really, it's really remarkable. I mean, it's like this to this, let's say.
Yes, it is. And so someday, do you think that the technology will be able to compress the wave file while saving the format?
I hope
Wow.
so.
the integrity, preserving the
Yeah.
integrity,
You know, it's
maybe.
a, it's I hope so. It's sort of a funny anecdote, not funny, haha. But I recently had a Zoom call with the head acupuncturist at Apple up in Silicon Valley. They actually have a very futuristic program for health for their
Okay, good.
and uh,
Wow.
and so for the engineers and the people that work at the in Cupertino and their families, they have access to this medical. They have 12 acupuncturists on staff there, and so and a lot of them are the engineers. So I dropped this idea about quality music and stuff. So we'll see what happens, because it's going to have to come from players like that. Big, big,
Yeah,
big.
and you're making great headway. I just want to say kudos to you. Absolutely kudos to you and Yuval Ron and all the people who are interested in this, all the sound healers that understand this, that get this. And then we, the people, are the ones that experience this when we access the CDs, whether it's for the 40 hertz or the healing sounds of Qigong. We notice how peaceful and harmonious our life is. That's us. Everything is energy. And this music is, how would you describe it? It's almost like it's acupuncture of music.
It's definitely healing vibrations. Um, but I wouldn't squirrel it into just acupuncture because we have the Ayurvedic and we have the Kabbalistic. We have different
Ah,
traditions, which all have their own importance and beauty and magnificence. One thing I haven't mentioned, which I think is important into this discussion, is we did make a whole program we call Kids Sanctuary,
mhm.
where we created very beautiful music, but it's not complex, but beautiful. And we also have guided meditations. You can have it with just the music or guided meditations with the music. And it's geared to children like about from 4 to 11. Oftentimes we're asking a parent or a caregiver to be there to help with some of the processes. And we thought it was important enough that we did with the guided meditations in Mandarin Chinese, French, Spanish, Hebrew, and English. And they're all separate versions called Kids Sanctuary. And it's a lovely program because really, like the Dalai Lama, he's if we all learned to meditate, the world would be a very different place. And the children absolutely are the future with that. If we can teach them to
Wow, that's
let's take
wonderful.
meditation out of not because I don't want it in the spiritual realm, but just put it in the psycho-emotional realm.
The
Is
nervous
it,
system regulation realm.
yeah, it takes people out of stimulus and response because
Right.
between stimulus and response, that whether it's a millisecond or a second or a few seconds, that's where our freedom lies because we're just not lizards reacting to stimuli. And
Mhm.
so, whatever we can help everybody or anybody find that place where they can take in information and then respond.
Yes, and you're just doing incredible work. Yeah, all ages, all races, all marketplaces. It's really beautiful. Thank you for the dedication and your commitment to this. And we're going to see more good stuff come from this. I know it, and that's really remarkable. Schools getting this getting out there. Children, the next generation, they get this. They understand that. These are just valuable tools. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Okay. This has been a great conversation. I'm so happy to talk with you and to share your teachings. I want to get a moment in where we can talk about the 7 CD set Ancient Wisdom and Modern Sounds for Health and Healing album by you and Yuval. This is an opportunity for people to work with those Qigong sounds. Tell us about what this is and how we can really use it. How do we use it?
Well, again, it's a 7 CD set. So each of the six healing sounds has a 45-minute um, track. I'm going to say disc because we actually did. This is our first thing, so we did print these in CDs. But we're going to do electronic, we're going to do wave files for you and your community.
And a QR code. It's really slick.
It's really slick to move. And then the seventh album of there is 10 minutes of each. So you could just run through the six healing sounds in 10 minutes. Each of those tracks for each element, it was you've all composed based on the indication from the traditional medicine of China. Again, the keys were described over 2,000 years ago. And then there's different instruments for each one that we felt was appropriate to the element. Embedded in it is, sometimes you hear it, sometimes you don't, is me doing the healing sounds. So your brain is getting that, and you're invited to participate for sure. And then there's a layer of affirmations in there that's subliminal, that really relate to the Chinese medical model, what each of the each of the energy orbs is about. So like with the kidneys, it's about courage and fortitude, and about heart, it's about being a loving heart, just a few things. But all the while you're listening to beautiful music performed by experts. Now, if people are again, the exercises are very, very simple. And in our liner notes on our website, I'm pretty sure that the exercises are described, but there are YouTube videos by other teachers that go through the simple exercises. And I mean, the exercise can be done in a chair. When we first put this out, I was going around to senior citizen homes and teaching these exercises. And then even to worked with a guy who ran a private hospice for caregivers and family members to bring, because if in 10 minutes you can bring a moment of sanctity, love and harmony, it's absolutely invaluable. So, and I'm happy to ever help with this, in a way. I'm there to promote it. But again, the exercises enhance it, but they're not required. And oftentimes on my morning walks, I run through the sounds. And a part of it, and I would recommend this, is I can just easily demonstrate, is like if you put your hands over your lungs and do and imagine and send love to your lungs and gratitude to your lungs for all they do. And likewise for the heart or for the liver. We just put our hands over where the physical organs are, and the kidneys on the back. And to do the triple warmer, we have one hand on the chest and one hand below the navel, which brings into play all of the organs, the major organs of the body. So I love the six healing sounds in the Qigong for the simplicity of it. You don't need any accoutrements. You don't need any devices. It's just, you could be, channeling your ancient Chinese self on a mountain in Western China, without any electricity and any of the craziness we're dealing with and the opportunities we're dealing with.
I love it. And so it's, you get your 7, there's the 6 healing sounds, and the 7th CD is all of them.
The compilation.
And it's 10 minutes. I mean, it's just so beautiful. All right. And so this is like a medicine toolkit of music for us to use every day.
Yeah.
I do have to say thank you so much for the incredible offering. This is it's almost $80 out in the regular marketplace. You're offering it to this community at a discounted price, and we're so grateful for that. We really appreciate it. So we encourage everyone to check it out. Very cool. Dr. Richard Gold, I am so honored to chat with you and your wealth of vast information and your storied history of your career and how you're doing this now. And I know there's more wonderful things to come from you and more beautiful research to come from you. And we're just so grateful. So as we say goodbye, your thoughts on the future of when you look at the earth and the work that you're doing for the earth, share what you see.
It's been said many times over the years. I mean, Tesla himself, not Musk's company, but that the future sound is the future of healing. Vibrational healing, resonance is the future in healing. And
Nikola Tesla, okay.
The real guy, Nikola. I think Einstein said something similar to that matter. It's just we have to wake up and recognize that we're chasing the wrong dragon right now, in just acquiring power and wealth and dominance. That the true thing is cooperation. This is a sort of an anecdote to that too. Is recent research came out is like, what's the best stress reduction thing to do? And it's not to say that massage and acupuncture and chanting aren't wonderful, but the key thing is being part of a community where you're giving. That's the key thing that reduces stress. This is not new age, this is research that's been published. And so, and we know how powerful placebo is, just positive thinking and positive thought, the potentiality of thought. So the information's there, but we're being inundated by so much fear and anxiety and divisiveness. We have, the more we're awake and we can distinguish and differentiate what's really important and true for ourselves, we have the potential. We're filled with potential, and we need to just. And the part of that too is we're still evolving as a species. We're definitely the crown of evolution thus far, but we're not the future yet. We need to evolve. We need to. But we said we need to jump. We need a quantum jump.
Yeah. And we're so close to that with the new kids being born and the way that the world is positioning to set them up for success. We are so close, and you're doing a remarkable job. So kudos to you. Check out this beautiful offering for music and take this healing music as medicine into your life. Thank you, Dr. Richard, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you so very much. Namaste.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.